They always said the sun had never set on the Empire.
Welcome to Mojo Plays, and today we're looking at lore differences between Team Folan's Total Conversion mod Fallout London and the official games. While Fallout London isn't canon to the series, it reimagines the Fallout lore in fun and interesting ways.
The All of Blighty's up for grabs right now. Nobody's heard from Her Majesty for ages, and frankly, people are cream crackered hearing the Gentry's orders from behind their walls.
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Tickets.
For the bloodiest chapter of human history had only begun.
Though the UK certainly isn't void of bottle caps, Team Folan decided to use something else as the game's currency: old train tickets. If you've taken a train in Britain, you'll know that these white and orange tickets do look just like the ones used across rail services in the country, not just the tube. It's definitely an interesting change, and we're not sure how realistic it is that all of these paper tickets would have survived the fires of a nuclear war, but if all the pre-war money managed it, then it makes enough sense, I guess. It's definitely interesting to see other forms of currency in the world of Fallout, especially when the Bethesda games are devoted to using bottle caps, even when the West Coast societies have all moved on. Brands. Part of what makes Fallout Fallout is its roster of iconic brands. Nuka-Cola, Vault-Tec, Robco, Repcon, they're all recognizable to fans. But Fallout London doesn't have a lot of these, since many of those corporations dominated America and not Europe, with the exception of Nuka-Cola, which is still everywhere, though it's in its pre-Fallout 4 bottles. Instead, we've got parodies of a lot of British brands and companies, like the supermarket chain Fesco instead of Tesco, Hippie vacuum cleaners instead of Henry, and so on. And Nuka-Cola isn't without local competition. There's the bomb-shaped bottles of Ion Brew, a parody of Scotland's national soft drink Iron Brew, as well as cans of Teaser, a parody of the bright red soda Tizer. Vaults. Because Vault-Tec was only building vaults in the US, these franchise staples don't really appear in Fallout London. Instead, people took shelter in the Pindar stations, though these weren't used to conduct inhumane experiments like most of the vaults were, at least not at first. Early on in the game, you find out that people also tried to hide out in the Greenwich Foot Tunnel, but it was flooded. Otherwise, the affluent borough of Westminster has remained largely untouched by the war and has been walled off. But this also means that Vault Boy isn't here at all. Instead, we have the Protect and Survive family of 4 as mascots. Protect and Survive was a real campaign the British government ran to prepare people for nuclear war in the 1970s, and the Faceless family were the real mascots.
Not to worry. Let's put them back under.
Churchill.
Me? I've done nothing wrong.
Another iconic piece of the Fallout puzzle is Dogmeat, your trusty German Shepherd who gets reincarnated in each game without fail. In fact, German Shepherds are just about the only dog breed you ever see in Fallout, with the exception of the wild mongrels. Team Folan decided to bring a British breed to the fore by giving you a pet bulldog called Churchill. You'll naturally encounter Churchill on your way to Thameshaven when you pass by the Prilladog factory, and his owner will give him up to you, saying he needs a real home. He's named after the popular Prime Minister, of course, who's long been compared to a bulldog because of his tenacity in standing up to Hitler. Rationing. Not too much is known about the state of the world's other countries before the wall, with the Fallout games being primarily concerned with America, its rival superpower China, and to a lesser extent Canada, thanks to the US annexing it in 2072. But the entire globe was suffering due to the rising tensions and ongoing resource wars. And it's clear from Fallout London that the UK is in the midst of rationing. You'll often find ration packs around the city along with other preserved meals. It's believed that the many wars meant that international trade was all but impossible, leaving countries, including Britain, with major food shortages. Other types of food you'll find include classic British meals like bangers and mash or fish and chips. And there's also a new type of crafting station, a tea station, just for making brews.
All in the name of their dear leader.
Trains. As well as tickets for trains, you can also ride the trains themselves. Yes, though the game opens with a disastrous train crash while you're en route to Bromley, some lines on the London Underground and DLR are still functioning and are used by the in-game factions to transport goods. Mass transit is something that barely exists in the games. Essentially, you just have the train in the Broken Steel DLC, which notoriously has to swap your character's head with a model of the train car to actually work, and the monorail between McCarran and the Strip. Functioning trains in a Fallout game are nothing short of miraculous, even if they do give us flashbacks to getting lost in Fallout 3's nightmarish buggy metro tunnels for hours.
You were more useful as a lab rat.
Guns. There are plenty of guns in Fallout London, and you'll find many early on, though ammo is far scarcer and many of the gangs favor brass knuckles and straight razors in combat. The guns are much weaker though, with a lot of 32 caliber pistols that are some of the worst guns in the US-based Fallouts. This is, of course, because the UK has extremely strict gun control laws. While there's no gun control after the Great War, there are simply fewer guns in circulation because of this, meaning they're harder to get a hold of, as is the ammo. There are plenty of improvised handmade weapons, and you'll find a lot of former service weapons that once belonged to the army.
Let history remember us. Let history know our name. Fight!
Factions.
All full of the zest and zeal to survive that has kept London thriving through war and strife.
The first faction you meet are the Vagabonds, a ragtag group of lovable rogues modeled on famous UK gangs like the Peaky Blinders. Sebastian Gaunt is even a sound-alike for Peaky Blinders star Paul Anderson.
You're going to pay for your treachery, and pay dearly.
But there are many more besides, including the Isle of Dogs Syndicate, who dress in brightly colored suits, the Jacktars, who look like the Regency-era redcoats, violent punks and hooligans, the aristocratic members of the Gentry, the Fifth Column, the Tommies, Camelot, and Angel, the faction whose laboratory you break out of in the opening. Famous Fallout factions like the Brotherhood of Steel and the Enclave are nowhere to be seen. After all, it wouldn't make sense for the Brotherhood to have a majority presence over in Blighty.
Amidst the open pits and broken earth. And what more besides? For London is a vast city full of many nooks and crannies.
Wildlife. As the developers and Team Folan themselves have said, the UK isn't exactly known for dangerous wildlife. In fact, the deadliest animal in England is the cow, and they kill on average 5 people a year. But add nuclear war and radiation to the mix, and suddenly you have dangerous mutated versions of badgers, foxes, and even shrews, with rad shrews largely replacing rad roaches as the game's weakest enemy, though you can still find roaches in some places. Some animals do reappear, including radstags and Brahmin, though the Brahmin have been reskinned to be black and white. But maybe the biggest cultural deep cut is that London's version of the feared Deathclaw is the Womble, inspired by the fictional animals. Thamesfolk. The two most common seen races of mutant humans in Fallout are the ghouls and the super mutants. While ghouls exist in Fallout London and are humorously nicknamed commuters, super mutants aren't here, with the exception of a white experimental super clone you find during a main quest. This is because the forced evolutionary virus that makes the mutants is, again, part of the American lore. But there is a brand new species of mutant humans, the Thamesfolk, a group of Lovecraftian fish people. Unsurprisingly, the Thames has a long history of pollution, so it makes sense that it would be so full of strange chemicals that it eventually breeds a new species of mutant when combined with nuclear fallout. But don't worry, the Thamesfolk are perfectly friendly.
I basically run Thameshaven. Well, so does Bob. Just not as much.
Let us know in the comments which other country you'd love to see Fallout and its mods go to next.
War. War never changes.
Check out these other great clips from Mojo Plays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.